Episode number 10, and what an amazing guest to match the achievements. Today's guest is Kim Elizabeth James, a former Reece Plumbing content and engagement lead and Hootsuite strategist. Kim has over a decade of experience in marketing, transforming some of Australia's biggest brands. In May of 2024, Kim launched her very own business, Tangerine Tango, helping to build the brands of both businesses and individuals, taking on the gate-locking model of the big agencies and providing her clients with the tools and utilities required to succeed in the modern world of marketing. Today, you'll learn about Kim's wealth of knowledge of social media as we dive in and discuss the current trends and opportunities that arise on social media. We discuss the best practices for creating content on the likes of Instagram and TikTok, as well as talk about the importance of building a personal brand. You'll also learn about where Kim sees social media moving over the coming months and years, and her tips for businesses to help them stay afloat. Let's welcome Kim to the pod. Kim, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing very well, thank you.
Yeah, happy day.
Looking forward to us chatting today. You're the big number 10 for guests on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I think it's no better of a guest to have than yourself, given your experience in the marketing industry and what you've been able to achieve so far in your career. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to our discussion today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
First off, what do you think is the biggest opportunity for brands and individuals in terms of personal brands as well on social media right now?
The biggest opportunity is showing the authenticity behind your brand, whether or not you're a business or a person within itself. The platforms has evolved to a position where you can just connect with people throughout an entire stage of the funnel. And I really think that brands that are able to be true to themselves and have a brand first approach rather than one particular platform and how we show up are the ones that's going to have that evolution as these platforms continue to evolve over time.
So brand first approach, what do you mean by that?
If you asked me 6 months ago what to do on TikTok compared to what I would say now, completely different. Like when we all started getting on TikTok, for example, we were like short form, 6-second videos, funny, dancing. Now you can do up to an hour. You've also got TikTok carousels. We've got TikTok notes. We've got TikTok live. We've got TikTok shop. We've got LinkedIn video. Like you can't just only have an approach where it's demanded of what the platform is doing best. Otherwise you end up feeling like you are playing poker with the weaker hand. So when I say having a brand first approach, it's understanding who you are and how you show up, and then the platforms that work best to support that where to your audiences are. Otherwise, yeah, you're just at the realm of what the platform moves to, of what new feature it wants to push.
Right. So have you seen previously then a lot of brands go out and just say, all right, we're going to go on Instagram, we're going to go on TikTok, we're going to go YouTube, Facebook, across the board, and they just start posting content for these platforms, not actually thinking about, okay, this is our brand, this is the message we want to put out there. So you're saying do the opposite. Focus on the message as opposed to focus on the platform.
Focus on the message, focus on the audience first as well. So that's something that I think when we started doing these platforms, people were thinking, okay, we need to be on Instagram, or, oh, let's start a new TikTok account. And it's just going from the brand out. But when you actually go brand first speaking, you're actually speaking at the audience. You're not necessarily putting them first. So the future of those brands that you think, oh my God, they absolutely nail it online are the ones that actually have an audience first approach where you feel like you see yourself in the content. So by doing that, you build a stronger community. You actually put your brand into the lifestyle of them, but it also makes the algorithm very happy. Like we know now that Instagram has said, make shareable content. Shareable content comes from knowing who your audience is, what their pain points are, what their daily lives are, and implementing your brand into their life. You can't do that if you don't have an audience first approach.
Yeah, that's very true. How can you make shareable content if you don't know why you want people to share it in the first place? And you need to know 100% what that avatar looks like, who that individual person is that you're speaking to. Otherwise, what's the point of putting the content out there in the first place?
Absolutely, absolutely. And not only understanding who your audience is, but when you have that understanding of your audience and your personas, then you actually create the persona of who your brand is showing up. So, for example, when we really kind of scaled up the social media presence of Reece Plumbing back in the day, I was a 23-year-old matcha drinking Pilates girly. I was not a tradie, you know? So I created this persona, and his name was Davo. I knew what he did, how he spent his weekends, what Davo ate for lunch, and I was Davo. That then meant meant that when we communicated online, it wasn't me and what I thought the brand should be. It was Davo. And it got to the point where people would say, who knew me, you were so scarily like a tradie male online. So I actually teach brands how to do that, because I say when you make that content that when brands are like, we want to be in trends and on pop culture and part of it, one, you need to hire someone that understands pop culture, but two, you need to know who your audience is and do they care about that trend? Do they know what the Met Gala is or the AFL or the Brownlow to put yourself into that situation?
So, question about that then, Davo. You were the main building block behind Davo. How did you then collect that avatar and pass it off to co-workers who were also engaging online? How did they take up that avatar? Because if it's all you and that's your brainchild, it would be easy then for people to look at it and say, I can't really match that. So how did you do that for a bigger brand as Rest Plumbing is? Because it's very easy to do for a small business, right? One person, two people doing it at max. When you've got big organisations, how do they create this avatar and pass that between their colleagues? Yeah,
that's where you want to document it into a strategy. That's where you really want to have it clear, because the content persona is not only for me to know who I am. I think, as you said, with small businesses, if it is a reflection of who you are, it's very easy to communicate as it. But when you're working with a big business, that's where your strategy should be to know for not only the people in your business, but when you work with an agency, here's who we are, here's how we communicate outside. So having that documented. At the time, we had such a loyal and very values-driven team that everyone probably also felt like Davo. Like, it was very communicated. Another key thing is that a strategy in a document can only go so far. So we would have a content marketing pipeline on a Friday, and I really made sure that the broader marketing team felt part of content marketing. So that would be where on that session we would go through the numbers, what we have coming up, what's going on in the industry, so that everyone felt part of content marketing, not just I'm in brand, Kim does social media. It understood how my brand shows up on social media. And that's really key when you're a big business, not only to understand the content personas, but also the value that social drives. For a very big business, that is probably going to make money regardless if you're there or not sometimes.
Definitely. And what was the impact of creating this persona beforehand? What did it look like? The stats and the numbers and the metrics versus after you implemented Davo?
It would come down to when we could make that content that actually felt part of someone's lifestyle. So, for example, one of the biggest ones was, and it was sometimes not necessarily for big campaigns, but also just like everyday content people loved. So key ones was when it was 7-Eleven Cup Day. A plumber had sent us a photo and he made a cup out of some pipe. And we were like, oh, that's great. So then we posted it being like, hey, show us what you make your cups out of. And because tradies love to make things, have a lot of pipe in their car, buy the pipe from us, and love 7-Eleven, it just went viral because it was putting us in part of their everyday, and they would send us everything. So we were able to have organic moments like that felt part of people's day. But then when it did come to campaigns and we did things like World Plumbing Day, we were able to connect and had messaging that really related to plumbers and what they value as well. And then on the flip side, I think one of my favorite ones was I posted a lot of dogs. We know tradies, they love dogs. So we had Dog of the Week because we had so many dogs. We needed to make one of that. So then it was this Reese Dog of the Week that people would then comment and tag us in their dog, and then they get featured. That I don't think I knew the impact of until I left Reese, and I would meet people and they would be like, oh my God, did you do Dog of the Week? Oh, this one time you posted my tradie partner's dog, and oh, that was the best part of our day. And I was thinking, that was just my Thursday.
Yeah,
I need to get content out.
Yeah.
So it really allowed us to not speak at the customer, but be part of their lives.
And that is so, so important. And that's a great example there. And I think about GoPro as well. They do the exact same thing. You go on their Instagram over the years and still to the current day, they're just posting videos not of them out there using a GoPro, but their customers out there on the Alps, on a ski somewhere, in a kayak in the middle of nowhere, going down a whitewater raft or whatever it is, some sort of extreme activity. And they say, send us the video, we'll put it up there. And it is so good for the morale of the customer because they feel appreciated.
Yeah, they feel part of it and your brand becomes part of their lifestyle. Like we would say that Instagram was the Reese Plumbing lifestyle and those who live it. Because then it implements you into part of someone's everyday, life and how they live it. And there's a lot of brands that many of us kind of think of that is part of who we are. And that can either be on a grand scale like Reese Plumbing or on a smaller scale. Everything on TikTok, there was hot girl walks, hot girl dinner, and then there was hot girl snacks. And what do hot girls love? Pickles. So these two women made a pickle brand, called it Hot Girl Snacks, and it was just like, well, if you want to be in that world, you need to eat these pickles. If you want to join a run club, you need the vest, you need the glasses, you need the particular shoes. Like everyone then wants to feel part of something. If you make your brand saying that you feel like you're belonging to a community, you win.
Yeah, most definitely. Before we jumped on to the chat this morning, we're talking about LinkedIn, and you touched on it at the very start just then briefly. LinkedIn video, very, very fresh compared to what it had been previously. They're actually bringing out, or they already have brought out, a dedicated video feed, predominantly for short form video, but there are some longer form ones going viral as well. What's the opportunity there at the moment? Because that is a quickly moving space.
Oh, absolutely. And I think people that get on a new way of content delivered is kind of the early adopters. I think with LinkedIn, there's a bit of hesitancy behind it because it's one of the last platforms that written content is valued. And written is absolutely key, and it can be such a phenomenal way to communicate. Not everyone is natural to being on camera, and I think that those people felt like they could communicate themselves on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn video, it also is in two ways. So one, the best way to get out on LinkedIn video that I've been told from people that communicate with LinkedIn is actually having very SEO heavy captions when you're doing your video. So unlike TikTok and Instagram where it can, read what's going on in your captions on like your text on screen, it's really about having as much as possible really SEO heavy in that post copy and then your video to go with it as well. And also, I think a really key thing with LinkedIn is that it gives you the opportunity to repurpose and recycle content. We are posting on these platforms. If you're on TikTok, 1 to 3 times a day. Instagram, 3 to 5 times a day. LinkedIn, 5 times, a week, not days. And we're looking at volume. So in order to be able to reach people where they are, you want to adapt the content that you have to those platforms and also not burn yourself out. So it's like, let's repurpose and recycle instead of just putting everything into one video and then moving on to the next topic.
So talking about SEO, we look at SEO from a website perspective, very different to a SEO from a social media perspective. Mm-hmm. So an SEO heavy caption on LinkedIn, what does that look like? Is it similar to what you have on a website whereby, let's just say for us, video production. So we want to search for, we want to rank for video production Melbourne as an example. Mm-hmm. So we would be creating content around that keyword, having it on our pages, etc. If we're wanting to come up for video production on LinkedIn as an example, do we go with some similar practices, or how does it look like for an SEO heavy caption?
Yeah, so not only what you do, but also what the video is about. So if in that video you were talking about audio quality or you're talking about video quality or how to book guests, I would have the SEO really related to exactly what that video is. That's not only for LinkedIn, it's also really key for TikTok and for Instagram as well. So hashtags can be important for what they are on a broad level, which is video, but niche, are you talking about which mics you should get or, the best times a day to film or how to get the best quality lighting in the room. You want to have that copy really aligned to exactly what that particular video is. And then, if you do that, then that's not only what LinkedIn cares about, it's also TikTok and Instagram.
Sure. So in terms of looking at some of the videos that have gone viral on LinkedIn so far in the month or so that it's been quite popular with this push out, I've seen a mix of different videos. So some of them are the more heavily produced videos where you've got captions bouncing across the screen, you've got text and images rolling around everywhere. And then there's others that are very plain and simple. It's just someone speaking to camera as we are today. They might have a small caption down the bottom. They might not have anything down the bottom, but they're very, very simple and that's it. And personally for me, I found, I definitely haven't gone viral on LinkedIn yet, but I found this over the past 8 months or so posting video on LinkedIn. The videos that have performed the best in terms of reach and in engagement have been those ones that are a bit more simply produced, straight to camera, nothing going too crazy with captions and images and what forth. So what have you seen? What has your perspective been on it? Have you seen videos that have been very simple go very well? Or have you seen the videos that have been overly produced do very well? Or is there an in-between that works?
the most important thing is you can have the best or the lowest quality production, but the messaging is what's key. The ones that I've seen that have gone viral is the ones that they have an absolute clear messaging and purpose, that when I watch that, you speak exactly to what I'm going through, that will get through. So whether or not that is a podcast clip and then it's seen as that bit of thought leadership, you can have 10 podcast clips. If one really goes into exactly who I am and it's shown up and it knows me, that's going to perform. So I think we see this across with the other platforms as well. You can definitely get into a point where it's like, okay, well, you need to use this particular hook, you need to use this particular copy, blang, blang, bang. I have had videos that have gone viral that have taken me 15 seconds to film. Very short, low production kind of ones. I've also had ones where I put more effort in and they've gone viral. So it's less about understanding of which, and I know that we're talking about video and you do video production here as well, but it's the messaging. That it is absolutely key, because anyone can put the most amount of editing into a video, but not everyone can make that messaging that absolutely resonates.
Yeah, and I say it because it needs to be reinforced all the time. You know, for us, client comes to us and says we want this produced for us, and it's okay. Yes, we can produce it for you. We can do it at the smaller scale. We can do it at the larger scale. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what scale that we produce the video at for you. It's not going to work if your message isn't clear. You don't know how to communicate that to your customer, and you don't have a platform to actually communicate it to your customer on.
Yep.
You don't have those three variables, amongst other variables as well, but those are the main ones. If you don't have those, it's not going to work no matter how good the production quality is.
100%. Like, there's non-negotiables I teach people in terms of video that you need to have on there, but also at the end of the day, the best messaging will always cut through.
Yeah, most definitely. Even if it's just you pick up your phone, back of your camera, hello everyone.
Yeah.
It works
100%.
if the message is there.
Yeah.
Definitely. So let's go back to talking about Instagram and TikTok, because these are the bulk of the opportunity on social media at the moment for both personal brands and for business brands as well. So B2B brands, I want to talk about them, because these are brands and companies that traditionally shy away from content marketing. They'll sit on LinkedIn, they'll do the basics on there. Otherwise, they'll just look at themselves as word of mouth and maybe SEO. But there's a big missed opportunity of them not jumping on board for content marketing, Instagram and TikTok. Why do you think that is? Why do you think there's that hesitancy to jump on these platforms and not actually create content that is engaging and informative and gets people engaged with their business?
I think that gets to a certain element where you think we don't need that for our different industry. And I think one of the key things that I've seen this year, I've had more conversations with people this year that have said, we don't need a fancy website, we don't need SEO, we don't need social media marketing, that have contacted me and gone, oh wow, for the first time ever, we need those things. And that's been such a huge player. I think that people are saying it. When it comes to TikTok and Instagram, I do say to people, understand who your audience is and go where they are. If you are an audience, if you were like a civil company or something like that, Instagram is probably not it for you, because you have to think about, when you know who your audience is, what is the mindset that they are in and the behavior when they're on that platform. If I'm talking to more of a small business or an individual, maybe medium-sized business, I'm going to go on Instagram. If I'm talking to a larger business and I want to get people in work mode in that way, I'm going to go to LinkedIn. TikTok is a content consumption platform. It's not social media. You don't go there to engage with others. A majority of people are consumers rather than actual creators on that platform. It is content consumption. We are going there to fill time. So that's where it completely differs to Instagram. Is I do say to people, like, you can build a community to a certain extent on TikTok, but you're going to have that deeper connection with people on Instagram, because you can do stories that feels a lot more off the cuff. They can reply to you, they can engage, they can like more little aspects of you, and you're going to build that a lot stronger there. But that discoverability on TikTok is absolutely paramount, and that's where you're going to get a little bit more of that top of funnel, but filter down as well.
Sure. So here's a question for you. Hawaiian Host Group, have you seen their Instagram? No. So the Hawaiian Host Group, I think I've got the name right off the top of my head. They're a holding company for a number of different confectionery businesses in Hawaii and I think wider the US as well. Nuts and chocolates and a range of different things. At the start of this year, they had 2,000 followers, something like that. Bare bones, nothing. It was just because people knew the brand and they just did that. They weren't doing much content marketing, anything like this. Flip it to the current day, they've got over 350,000, I think it is. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it all started because they let a challenge go through and they said, Boss Man said if we get the 10,000 followers by X date, he'll take us to Disneyland. So you can see why people got on board with that, and it went from there. And then they got 10,000, and they said, "All right, if we get to 100,000, he'll wear a Disney dress or whatever the situation was." It just grew and grew and grew and grew.
Yeah.
This is a company; it's a holding group. They don't need social media. They're just there to look after the array of businesses that they have and do about their job on a daily basis. And yet they saw an opportunity to grow a community on Instagram, because that's what they've got now. Maybe it wouldn't have happened on TikTok, as you said there, but in Instagram, they've got this community now where everyone loves the boss. Because he looks like this nice, fun guy. He's easygoing. He's running this big company, but he doesn't care. He's wearing Disney dresses. Is that an example there of what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, they've humanized the brand. Yeah. They put someone in front of it. And so you can have a big business and, yes, there is a personal brand. They humanize the person behind it. And it's so funny because people also, where it comes to social media and where there can be a bit of a pushback of why are we doing silly content? Why are we doing things that's not a direct selling? You're trying to be top of mind. There might have been people within that, right, that then might work in that industry or know someone else. Anytime you go to make a purchase in life, you are going to have, it used to be about 3 to 5 lists in your head, your consideration set, also called like your evoke set. Traditional like marketing degree at university. Sure. That list is about 2 now. So if you were going to make a purchase and you were like, okay, I'm going on a holiday, which suitcase do I buy? You're going to then go, okay, which brands do I know in my head? And for a long time, that was Samsonite, that was American Tourister. July suitcases are probably going to be ones that are coming up and coming. They're everywhere. And it's also about like the long and short of it as well. You know what I mean? Like we get so held up in the short-term game of going viral ones or performance marketing. But what is that long-term play with your brand? And I would be interested to know what that opens up for that business, of that long-term brand play of people being like, well, not only is it for people to work with them from like a client perspective, but also an employee as well. Like has that improved employee advocacy or people wanting to go and work with them as well?
Yeah. I think definitely the employee front, I could see there being a huge upside to it because you've shown that the boss is a chill bloke. He's not corporate. He's not faceless. He's a fun guy to be around. So you can see why people would want to work at a company like that. And if they're going to get trips to Disneyland all paid for, by all means, I would love to work there.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? But exactly right. The long-term plan, what is that there? You've got this 300,000 plus following now. If you don't do something with them, they're just going to drop off. Yeah. So you need to keep it and be consistent. And what's that next thing that's going to keep them in there? Because you can't keep doing challenges all the time because people just get bored of it.
100%. Yeah.
You touched on silly content there before, memes and stuff like that. Do you see that as a bit of a danger for a lot of businesses? Some businesses I speak to, they say it, and my personal thought as well is don't do it for the sake of doing it. You need to have a bit of a purpose behind doing it. Otherwise, it is just being silly for the sake of being silly. What's your thoughts on that?
So when you do your content pillars, you should have you have your content pillars of what we do, what we sell, our products, our services. Then what I do is say to people is like the 3 E's of making content: entertaining, encouraging, and educational. Those are kind of like the 3 to get you up and going of when you're making content. When it comes to silly or fun content, 1, make it aligned to your brand. Like make it really aligned to your brand and who your customer is. There is definitely an element where I understand that with TikTok, it's really pushed the barrier of that. Like look at someone like Telstra and how funny they make with that. But they also know they're quite a legacy brand. How do you get Gen Z to buy their phone plan from Telstra? You see that they can go, okay, Telstra, TikTok, young, fun, let's really get into that. So it's only a bad thing if it is not aligned to your audience, crude to your brand, and also just like doesn't align to your brand values and your promise. Like if you are a brand about creating customers for life and then there's a bit of like putting the customer down, then that's not going to get anywhere. But that's where it comes back to having that content persona. If you can make memes that are aligned to your industry, that are funny, that people really enjoy, that's shareable content. It should be something funny that's into that. So for example, like I've been working with a client who is in like the restaurant industry, and I was like, well, one of the key things that people love to do is peeling prawns. And I don't remember if you remember, but I remember back in the day there would always be this prawn peeling competition on Today's Show. I was like, well, why don't we do a prawn peeling competition in the business and then invite people, come in if you can peel a prawn stronger than we can. Yeah. So that's something that's fun, it's silly, but also aligns to them and that gets the customers involved as well. Sure. So yeah, if you understand your brand and who they are, you will show up with it. But that's where if you don't know who you are, you will fight and you will just go for trends, and you will find that you are playing in what everyone else is doing, and it's just not aligned to who you are kind of thing. And that's where people go, well, hang on, we're growing because we're doing silly things, but that's also not getting any sales in the door.
Correct. You're bringing in the wrong people.
Exactly.
It goes back to what you said at the start. Know your message, know what you're trying to put out there, know who you're trying to target, and then you can probably shape that to the trends.
Yeah.
But if you're going straight out for the trends, you're going down the list, all right, this is going, this is going, this is going, why just do it?
Yeah.
It's just no benefit for it at all. So let's touch upon B2B again. What would you suggest then for, you just spoke about the restaurant idea there, that's great, more B2C of course, but using that idea of a prawn peeling competition, let's say you've got a real B2B brand, a business accountant, for example, right? Plain boring, but there's probably upside for them being on social media to a degree. What would you say there is an idea similar to that prawn peeling competition they could take on board?
Yeah, I think whenever it comes into opportunities like that, there is so many things that when you are an accountant or a lawyer that you think is just common knowledge that a lot of businesses don't. So a good friend of mine, also a client of mine, she's a lawyer on TikTok. She is an employment lawyer. She is absolutely killed it this year because also I think she's pretty much the only employment lawyer in Australia on TikTok. Sure. So much of what she also goes through and that opportunities and where we did a bit of a workshop together was what are all the things that businesses don't think of that you can actually simplify and humanize to get out there. So it might not be necessarily silly content about accounting. Yes, you could have something that is related to how people feel about coming up to tax time or about their finances, but also a lot of that in it, you can actually make really humanized, authentic, educational content that when you're starting a business or you're earning more for the first time, you're even doing a tax file number, where is all those little pieces that you might have had as an FAQ on your website that now can become content that people go, oh my God, that's so valuable. I really appreciate that. People might save that to come back for later. That then when they go, oh, okay, I have started a new business, or I actually need to get a new accounting software, or I need to actually speak to someone, you're actually top of mind. Like you're sitting there, they've watched your content. And so when we look at like how that would personalize it, right? When it's like a funnel, so you've got your content funnel, a personal branding of that would be the top of funnel is building awareness of like likability. I like you. I like what you talk about. The middle is really showing that you are credible and, oh wow, this person knows what they're talking about. Extremely key right now where there's a lot of ability to like call yourself an expert online, but you might not be. And then that bottom one is trust. Is that credible trust? So someone's like, okay, I need to make a purchase. I need to sign up with someone. Where do I go? You are that person there.
So let's go through that funnel there. What's a piece of content that you could use for a top of funnel, middle funnel, and then that final little bit to get that last bit of trust and credibility to get them over the line?
100%, and I'll do it on a skincare brand because this is one of the ones that I found when I explain to clients in a skincare, they get it the most. So top of funnel is your awareness building, your middle of funnel is building that nurturing, and your bottom of funnel is closing the funnel. So when we talk about the messaging, you can actually have some that you want to align to each different stage of the funnel. So I talk to people about sunscreen. Sunscreen is something that I love doing the funnel with. So for example, if you were a sunscreen brand, bottom of the funnel is what you sell. We're trying to do the offers and where it's in sale or what you've got going off. The middle of funnel is where I would talk about what kind of skincare does it work for? Do you work for sensitive skin? Do you work for dermatitis skin? How long do I have to wear it on? How long do I have to reapply? Like what is, common myths about sunscreen? Why is sunscreen stronger in Australia compared to internationally? Like build that. But the top of the funnel is where you want to be controversial, aspirational, or relatable. And right now, where I would do that is if I was skincare, everyone's talking about anti-aging, Botox, filler, facelifts, any kind of anti-aging product that you can do, but no one's wearing sunscreen. So that top of funnel controversial, I would put sunscreen there to get the views and people would be like, oh my God, that's so true. And then once you get them on there, you would filter them through of why yours is different to others and how it really works for them. So like I'm a redhead and I'm really pale. If someone then talked about how this works for me personally, I'd be like, yeah, great. And then it's the bottom of funnel, say I follow them, then it's, okay, well now we're actually in Priceline, or we've actually got this deal on, or we're doing this particular giveaway. You sell it to me. And so that's where it kind of looks at in a full funnel. So I think a lot of people think that where it comes to content, one of the questions I always get asked is, how can one piece of content be every single stage of the funnel? And you will. You might have particular videos that absolutely go off and then you get sales from that, but it's not always how it works. It's more that there's certain pieces of content that gather the right audience that want to align with you, and you have to nurture them through, and that when they go to make a sale, you're in that consideration set and they go, okay, I'm going to go for that particular one.
Yeah, and that's very straightforward. It's very straightforward and simple, but that you've just presented there. You don't have to do anything crazy complex. It is just be a little bit controversial. Talk about anti-aging. Well, just put some sunscreen on, and you'll be pretty good compared to doing all this other stuff. And then well, who does our sunscreen target? Pale redheads. Okay, perfect. That's going to be better for them than someone that's got blonde hair and blue eyes. Perfect. We'll go over for the redheads instead. And then you finalize it all and say, hey, look, we've actually got a sale going on at Priceline or Chemist Warehouse. Pick some up. It's half price, whatever it is. Perfect. I'm sold. I'm there.
100%.
Done.
100%. And it's like, it's nothing new, and I think we can overcomplicate it, but it's exactly how majority of businesses always run. Like, say you were going to do you needed a plumber and you wanted to do a bathroom renovation. There is probably 40 plumbers in this local area, but if 3 of them say, we actually do bathroom renovations for 1-bedroom apartments, and you're like, oh, well, I have a 1-bedroom apartment. They know how to do that. The 37 others also knew how to do it, but if you have the keywords that we offer that. So same as with hairdressers. Like I always say my hairdresser, I actually did a TikTok about my hair and cutting your hair into a bob. Someone drove from Geelong to Richmond to go and get their hair cut by my hairdresser because they saw it on TikTok. Because people are so like, I want to go to someone that I know can do my hair. So for someone like hairdressers, you want to have showcasing of here is all the different styles, and someone goes, okay, you do red hair and I like how theirs is done, I'm going to go to you. So that's that middle of funnel content that's really key. And a lot of businesses can usually do the middle really well, and it's about flipping up into the top of funnel. Where it is very interesting right now though is that TikTok has evolved, that the accounts over the past year or so that have gotten big followings in the top of funnel are not getting the views, because now we are getting that. We've seen it. But when you're putting new content out, yes, it goes to a new audience, but we're actually seeing, if you've got a following, that content going out is also seeing how it is with your existing following audience. And depending on how they react, depends on how it goes out further. So accounts that had big followings that you're looking at going, oh, why are they getting so low of views? It's actually because we want more nurturing content.
Yeah. And it's a very, very important point to make there as well. You need to be not just touching on one pillar of those funnels. You need to be doing a mix of it and do it all the time. And I talk about the 5 pillars of brand films all the time. You've got educational brand films. You've got raising awareness brand films, which is about your core values and your beliefs. Then you've got 2 aspects of social proof, which is customers' social proof, testimonial types sort of thing, and the business social proof, so case studies, this is what we've done, etc. And then you've got the promotional side of things as well, promotional brand film. So you've got those 5 there. But if you're just focusing on one or the other, you can't actually get people going through. If we look at it from a top, middle, and bottom funnel type of perspective, the educational and the raising awareness is that top of funnel. It gets people looking in, oh, that's interesting, yeah. And then you got the values there, which is a bit of a talk on the heart type scenario. So you draw them in a little bit more. And then as they get further down that funnel, then you bring in the social proof aspect and you say, okay, we've got the customers, this is what they've done. GoPro's an example there. This is our social proof. We show their videos. And then a B2B perspective is just a testimonial, a general testimonial, of course. And then you bring it down the other end and say, this is your promotional side of things. And you can see there, that's the funnel. But if you only touch on the educational all the time, people they see it, they get engaged, and they stop there.
Yeah, they get bored.
They can't progress any further.
Yeah.
So you need to provide them with the raising awareness side of things, the middle funnel, the social proof further down the line, and then you can hit them with the promotional once they're warmed up, and then they'll go for it.
Yeah, and your content should be in that funnel. You have to remember that I know that some people say there's 3, 5 types of buyers and all this kind of stuff. I always just teach people, definitely when we do the audience strategy, have a logical buyer and have an emotional buyer. The emotional buyer is where you're going to go like, oh, anti-aging for sunscreen. Oh my God. The logical buyer is the person that will watch every video, read every review. So for example, my dad and my mum, they bought the BMW M2. By the time my dad went to that BMW dealership, he had watched every YouTube video, read every review, been on every blog. He and I, exactly the same. I actually changed my view on blogs recently. When I was building my website woman was like, you should have a blog. I was like, no one cares about blogs. And then recently I started working with someone, and last week I was on the plane and we hadn't even had our meeting yet, and I read his blogs, and it just hit, and I was like, this is the person to work with me, because I had that ability to just like any cognitive bias, I'd done my logical like review, and I was like, oh, you know what I'm talking about. So when we do say with people with the funnel, you want to have both, whether or not that is for evergreen content or also just ongoing campaign. One person, you're going to go, okay, this is the particular sunscreen that's going to have the best holiday of your life. And then others are like, this is a sunscreen, this is how you have to wear it, you should put it on before your makeup. Like, you want to have both so that both buyers feel like they have no cognitive bias and you are the one for them.
Yeah. It's so funny you talk about that then, logical versus emotional buyer. I saw a clip from Alex Moyes the other day, and he was saying, you just have to create the content, whether it be video or text or whatever it is, for the people that will actually consume it. You don't want to do it just for everyone, because not everyone's going to consume it. And I look at a lot of what we do, video production wise. People go, oh, people aren't going to watch the video on my website. But it's like, but the buyer that actually comes through will watch that video.
Yeah.
Not everyone that jumps on your website will watch it, but the person that watches that video is going to purchase from you.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Always,
and it should
always.
be used as tools for
Exactly
that to
right.
help, smooth people through. And when it comes to those testimonials, businesses that get it right is if they can go, okay, who is this client that we worked with? Why did they purchase with us? Where were they before and then after working with us? Because you want that person to watch, and don't talk about you in the business of what you did. It's what did it mean for the customer? Because if I can watch that and go, oh my God, that's me, win.
And it's straight emotive all the time. It's, where were you? How low were you when you called us up? How close to you were you to burning out, to closing down your business or whatever it was? Hit them with the impact, the heavy, hard-hitting stuff, and then say, all right, where are you now? Now we're doing an extra $20,000 a month in revenue. Now we've just turned over our 4,000th clients for the year, or whatever it is. Wow.
Yeah. I think that's where people get testimonials wrong, is everyone just says the what, and people get so bored from that. Like, oh, we did X, and you're like, oh God, boring. It's more, how did you get there? Where was this person before? What did it look like afterwards? How can I see myself in that transformation? That's where I think the social proofing comes in absolutely key.
100%. And let's talk about Tangerine Tango. Super, super fresh for you, and congratulations as well. It's been fantastic to see. And it's so just by chance that we connected. I saw one of your posts come up when I was going through hashtags on LinkedIn. And then I saw you're in Melbourne. I was like, oh, that's good. Marketing. I was like, good to connect. And it's been refreshing to see the content you're putting out there, because it's informative, it's educational, and it's engaging because you're happy all the time. And LinkedIn especially, it can get a little bit stale sometimes. People are very blank face. And it goes back to what you were saying before. People are a bit shy of the camera. I get it. But try and put a little bit of energy in things. Just engage people. So it's been refreshing to see that from you.
Appreciate.
For you, the journey to launching this business has been similar to some people, but of course very different to others. In 2022, you landed your dream role with Hootsuite. That's a company that so many marketers would love to work for. And unfortunately, after 6 months, you're made redundant, which is heartbreaking, of course. So for you, I've got 2 questions for you in regards to that. First of all, that 6-month roller coaster of emotions that you would have had, how did that impact you? And then secondly, on top of that, when you look back on that 6 months, the short time that you did have with Hootsuite, what were the 3 biggest lessons that you learned working with them?
Yeah, so 2022, it was like many companies with the tech layoffs. I would definitely say the tech industry now has completely shifted and a lot more reprioritized of where they're going and how all of those offers that we had. So I was a strategist and we worked with across our different clients. It was an awesome opportunity. I think a key thing of why I was really keen to work with them is that I had really great understanding in one particular industry and I wanted to broaden that. Because when I work with clients actually now, and when it comes to content marketing, I don't say we only work with B2B or we only work with this. I'm like, no, I've kind of worked across many. Like, it's more where a business is in their digitization of their journey rather than like, I only work with X industry. So Hootsuite was phenomenal for that, for me to be able to branch out. And it was actually the first time that I had seen consulting and seeing being able to work with someone rather than doing the work for them. Because I'd been in-house and I'd been in agency. So I'd only ever seen the done for you model. But when we were there, we were doing it with people. And I'm thinking, wow, this is really cool. Like, you're working with these phenomenal marketers and they have amazing resources internally, but they might just not have the frameworks and the strategies that they need and that external presence inwards to go, these are the trends, these are what we're seeing, and here's how you can implement it. So it was phenomenal for me. And then, yes, from there, I did then move into into another opportunity, and I was with a company called Kinship Digital. We worked with the government, and that was so rewarding to then look at social media and content on a government lens as well. My first time ever not selling a product, which is just very cool to have that opportunity to be able to explore, broaden my horizons. I would say the three key things that I learned was honestly going back to that do it with you model. And I started to see the opportunity to work with people rather than doing the marketing for them. And I was like, okay, well, hang on. This is a phenomenal way where the industry is going. And we can see kind of the agency model going. When in the last 10 years we'd had digital marketing and social, it kind of got to a bit of just outsource it, someone else can do it. But now we're at a point where we have a massive divide where we've got phenomenal marketers in-house, but we've got their branding is provided externally over here. And one of the main things that I hear people say is we could have done this better ourselves. And the reason you could have done it better yourself is not because the agency can't do it. It's because you know your audience, you know your brand, you know your customer, you know what's going on. And then on the flip side, the agency will feel like, well, we could have done that if we had a better brief. So that's where I went, okay, well, hang on, what would that look like? If there's two options now of fully do it for you or bring it in-house and try to work it out but not have this time or the resources to do a strategy and know the best practice, how do I sit in the middle and do with you? And I bring in the frameworks and I bring in the stories and what I've done. I say to people, you have a problem in social media, I've faced it. There's not many things that you will be going through right now that I haven't done, have the cliff notes and be like, here's how I would resolve it. So that definitely is what opened my horizons at my first time at Hootsuite of doing consulting, that I went, oh, hang on, there is such an opportunity to work with businesses and improve their internal capabilities rather than just take it out of the business.
Yeah. And the third lesson learned?
Third lesson learned, honestly, phenomenal business and really beautiful people. I would definitely say that it was definitely a really great opportunity to work in a global team. I was the only person from Australia and I actually reported into Canada. So I think if anything, I loved that we had myself in Australia, we had a team in Canada, I worked with a team in Europe, and actually just that ability where we had a platform called Gong and we could listen to each other's calls. And there was so much that the Canada team would be like, oh, I listened to your calls and I loved what you did. And we would take bits out of each other's decks, strategy decks. And yeah, it was great to have that kind of international view that each of us could pick up little bits from each other. So yeah, the collaboration, even though we weren't in the same country, was very good.
Yeah, definitely. And let's go back to talking about done for you, done with you type model. You're saying there a lot of companies, you hear them say, we could have done it better. And then, of course, the flip to that is the agency, well, if you had given us a better brief, we could have done it better. And both are correct in their circumstances, of course. Why do you think businesses can be hesitant to give away a bit more of a stronger brief? From that perspective of do it for you, the brief is the key, the critical to success. Done with you will provide all the frameworks that you need, but ultimately you need to know what's going on. So why do you think there's that hesitancy from the brand's perspective? Flip that second question. Why is there a hesitancy from agencies to try and relax control a little bit, do you think?
I think there's an element of you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't have the frameworks and the strategy, when you're outsourcing to someone else, it's a lot more difficult. You can only brief in from an element of where you are now. So a lot of businesses that I've worked with and that I've met, they actually have multiple agencies that they work with, but they don't have the strategy because they get straight into the tactical. Sure. What are we doing? What videos are going out? What campaign are we doing? So if that internal understanding of those frameworks isn't set, then you're briefing from a tactical position, not from a strategic position. And dependent on the agency will depend on whether or not they offer those services. It could also be that a lot of the time, sometimes the strategy is kind of chucked in with the doing. So for a lot of businesses, it's, okay, we're outsourcing just video or we're outsourcing just email for this campaign. But if that bigger holistic process isn't there, then you're always doing it from a siloed perspective.
Yeah. I have a saying I like to use. You can't put the roof on the house if you haven't put the walls. Yeah. That's the perfect description of a lot of companies' marketing. And having a chat with Alex Stock a few weeks ago on the podcast, and he talked about a rocket. And I said, yeah, if you've got the goal to go to Mars, go to the moon, and you say, okay, let's go for it. You start going towards it, it's going to do laps of the Earth. You just keep going around and around. If you take a step back and you say, all right, how do we get to the moon? How do we get to Mars? First of all, we need to build a rocket. To have a rocket, we've got to have some sort of fuel within there to get it off the ground. Then you've got to have people that know how to use the rocket, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you get to the moon. A lot of companies, as you said, they go straight for the tactical. What can we do?
How fast can we get to
How
the moon?
fast can we get to the moon?
Yeah, 100%.
And they start doing the laps of the Earth.
Yeah.
If you just take a step back and say, right, what is our strategy? What is our messaging? Who are we going to target? And we talk about this as marketers, and we think to ourselves, oh, that's simple. And the people listening who are also marketers, they'll be saying, yeah, of course, you have to know who you're talking to and your message. But they don't do it.
Yeah.
They don't do it, Kim.
Yeah.
It needs reinforcing all the time, and it still doesn't get picked up.
Yeah. I say it as in, like, so when we do the strategy, I actually call it the scaffold, because I say, and maybe it's coming back to I've been in the plumbing industry for so many years, but the blueprint, I don't say that my strategy is the blueprint. The blueprint is your business.
Yes.
Who are you selling? Why are you in business? What are you selling? What are you doing? That is your blueprint. The strategy that we do is the scaffold so that you can build the mansion, because we are the support around. I bring the frameworks in. I find though that when it's outsourcing and it's that blueprint, it's like, okay, we could do the kitchen in green, or we should have this kind of bathtub, or oh my God, what if the bedroom have, open patio doors or something like that? But if you don't know what you're actually building, you're going to end up with a 2-bedroom house when you actually had plans for a 1-bedroom house. Or you're like, oh, there's a pool here. We didn't want a pool, but now we've got this random backyard. Like, you have to have that strategy and that structure to be able to get there. But I think so often we can get into the tactical of, oh my God, we need to do the campaign, because you can actually move forward with a strategy. You can work in business without a strategy, 100%. Yeah. But you will get to a point where you get stuck. You will get to that point where you go, hang on, where are we going? What are we doing? Or you might find that you're not growing as quickly. So that's why I do really say with people, and I had one client and we worked together, and she has a phenomenal business, and she said to me, I want to work with you because I want your 10,000 hours. And then I actually ended up buying her course. She has a phenomenal course in email marketing. I knew email, but I knew that she knew email 10 times better than I did. And I was like, well, great. Well, I'll buy your 10,000 hours and I'll know how to implement yours. So when it comes with working with other agencies, business providers and stuff like that, it's identifying what industry are they in, have they been where you're trying to get to, and then you will get the best outcome.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. Buy each other's 10,000 hours. That's a different perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's a very new one. Like, for a long time there, you didn't have that opportunity to buy someone else's knowledge, but that's where the industry's going. You've got the 3 tiers, the do it for you, the do it with you, or the do it yourself kind of model. The do it yourself model is one that I think there's a tainted experience on courses and online things like that. But if you buy someone else's knowledge that's been somewhere that you want to get to, that can be really phenomenal.
So 7 weeks in to the new business, things are looking good from the socials perspective, but we all know socials can be a little bit polished sometimes. So how are you feeling inside about how things are going for you?
Good. Honestly, I was not looking at this of like what's in 3 months. I was like, what does this look like over 3 years? I've always been someone that wanted to work for myself. I grew up on a macadamia farm in northern New South Wales. I always dreamt of the city lights, and I would say to my parents, I'm going to work for myself one day. I just don't know what that is yet. And I really let myself just immerse into my career and where it went to before I realized what that was. And for me, that was realizing where the agency model was and how I could make an impact. So yeah, it's been a really good 7 weeks. I think right now that there's I'm in the educating kind of phase of there's a different way of operating. So yeah, you had the do it for you, or actually that's not working, let's just pull it internally and do it ourselves in-house. And I'm kind of that opportunity in the middle. So yeah, I've really been enjoying it. I've worked with phenomenal clients of actually all different sizes, from everything from with their business to into personal branding clients. And I think the key thing for me is like, I'm very fast, like get learnings and just be nimble. And I love that I can do that. Last week, I literally rewrote a whole lot of copy on my website, and I was like, didn't have to ask anyone. Yeah. So for me, I am loving the ability to kind of be nimble and just go, okay, this is working, this is not working, this is where the industry is going. After every client, I get feedback and I just continue to iterate it.
And that's the best mindset to have. Go in there thinking that you know absolutely nothing. Gather the feedback from the clients, what's working, what's not working, what can I as an individual do better, and adapt from there. And especially early days in the business, best way to go about it for sure.
If you take care of the work will take care of you. And I do believe that right now we're in a position where there's a whole lot of quick wins. I turn a business on and I just get $10,000 come to me straight away. But that's not sustainable. That's not what this looks like. Like, I mean, even out of business, have a look at 2 of the biggest stars right now is Charlie XCX and Dom Dollar. Dom Dollar was a DJ in Melbourne, when I was 18 years old, like over 10 years ago, he was a DJ. Charlie XCX, the reason reason why I say it is she just said with Apple Music, I was watching it yesterday, she said, I'm the opposite of an overnight success. She's been making music. She got her first record deal when she was 16. She's 32. People don't realize how much behind the scenes actually goes into the people that you're seeing online and where they are in their business and what they've achieved. How much of the small runs on the board. I would definitely say, I filmed a TikTok on this morning, which I need to post, but I have been in the industry for 10 years. I've only posted on LinkedIn for 1, and that is something I regret. I wish I'd done it earlier because the momentum and the opportunity I've had in 1 year, I think, why didn't I do this in the previous 9?
Yeah. And you make a great point there. You don't realize what's going on behind the scenes. It's so easy to pull up any sort of social media platform, whether it be Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever, and look at the number of followers people are getting, the number of views people are getting, and you say, all right, they've got 200,000 followers, they're getting 100,000 views on every single post that they do. Why can't I do that? But if you scroll back and take the time to go back to their very first post out of the 1,000 that they've posted, and you see that it was 4 years ago, they got 2 likes, and they're doing similar things to what they're doing these days, but obviously things have improved since then, quality of message and what forth. But you realize then, okay, I'm 4 years away from where they are right now if I put the work in.
100%. You can beat out 99% of your competition by just being consistent. Like, majority of people, because now we're in this position of, just post one video and go viral. Those days of TikTok don't exist. You can have one if you did something extremely controversial, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you start a business and you make money from it tomorrow. But yeah, a lot of people, you go back and you're looking like, wow, they've been here for a while, especially people that are having a sustainable presence. So yeah, it can be very warped online of like, you can look at people and think, oh my God, they're killing it. There's so much success, and they probably are to a certain extent. But I think that's where I like where LinkedIn is going, is being a bit more humanizing behind it. And I try to share some of those data. Like I did say one about how I don't pay attention to the LinkedIn likes on posts because a lot of people actually lurk and look on LinkedIn instead of publicly engaging. So I had one article and it was like, it got 20 likes, but it had 110 reads. And I was like, those 110 people are the ones that I want to probably sell to.
Exactly right. Spot on. And I know personally for me, and I assume this is a lot of the case for a lot of other people as well, this silent majority that is on LinkedIn quite heavily, you talk about there, if I'm looking at something on LinkedIn or I'm looking at a post on Instagram of a business or whatever, if I know inside of myself, and I might not know this consciously, maybe subconsciously I know this, that I might have a tendency to go towards this brand at a given time. I don't want to engage with that brand or that person in fear of all the stupid salespeople in the past which have just haunted people and harassed people. You have that fear of every business, and that's just the way it is over time. So people sit back, they look at it, they read it, they view it, but they're not going to put a comment on there. They're not going to like it in fear of, oh, hang on, I've just engaged with something. 2 minutes later, they get a phone call. Hey, do you want to buy from me? No, I don't want to.
Yeah.
When I'm ready, I will.
Yeah.
And that silent majority on LinkedIn is huge.
100%. Also on TikTok and Instagram. Like, the amount of people that I meet and they're like, oh my God, I love your TikToks. Oh my God, this is so great. Or we'll connect on LinkedIn. They'll be like, oh, I love you on TikTok. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I didn't even know. Like, because you're all thinking, oh my God, no one commented, no one's engaging. They're sharing it, they're liking it, they're watching it. Like, you can't get really caught up in the numbers. And I think that it's very easy that if you're not getting the number success straight away, that you will just give up. But it's just, unfortunately, yeah, there's a whole lot of smoke and mirrors that comes with online. And I think we talk about that a lot with like Instagram versus reality for your personal life, huge in business as well.
Big time, big time. And touching just on LinkedIn, we'll talk about personal branding in just a moment as well. Very easy to look at the numbers on LinkedIn, the likes. You might get 5 likes on a post, but you might have 1,000 followers, connections on there. And from that post, you might get 500 impressions, which is decent because we know that LinkedIn pushes out a post initially within the first hour to 5 to 10% of your connections. And if people start to engage, it'll go further from there. So if you hit that 50% and you get 500 impressions out of a possible 1,000, let's say, before it reaches other people outside of your connections, well, that's a good performance, but you've only got 5 likes. So you can look at that and think, I've only got 5 likes, people aren't engaging with it, they don't like it. But you got the 500 impressions. So that is the indication to you that people are getting value out of it because they've clicked more on the copy and they've read further down, or they've watched a longer duration of the video that you posted, or whatever it is, they've gone through the carousel post, 5 different pages. That's the indication there that people are listening. And I'm the same with you. I go down the street, I see people that are in my connections and they go, I'm loving what you're posting on LinkedIn. And I'm like
it.
but I haven't seen one comment from you.
Yeah.
I haven't seen one
Yeah.
reaction from you.
Yeah.
But they're there and they're enjoying it.
Yeah.
And it's good to have that recognition come back every now and then when you talk to people.
Yeah.
And you sit back and you think, I'm actually doing a good job. I'm doing the right thing. It just reinforces that you're taking action in the correct manner.
Yeah, people often ask me, like, what's the biggest learning from posting on TikTok? And I say to them that, like, it will let go of the fear of people watching you try. Like, there is nothing more cringe than trying to grow a following on TikTok and being in that. Like, I'm very aware how cringe that feels. It's one thing where, like, you've got an established audience, people are like, oh, wow, they got people. But, like, when you're growing it, oh, you feel so cringy. You don't know how to show up on camera. Like, I look at my videos from a year ago and people now are like, how are you so confident? I posted over, like, 200-300 times. I've been showing up. I've been doing it a lot kind of thing and having to see myself like that. But it's funny, I do think that when you actually post videos online, you will get better at your job. And I know that's a big claim to make and it sounds like something that like a motivational quote. But when you do that, one, you become more confident. Two, you also become a lot more succinct in your words because you can't waffle. You have to be able to clearly and precisely get your words out. So whether or not you're in sales pitching to someone or in a marketing role or any role, just communicating to another stakeholder or to your boss to talk about a promotion, you're going to understand how you feel you're clearest and you're most authoritative, and that comes with posting online. So you just got to get over the fear of people watching you try. I realized that I did climb Cringe Mountain because someone that I went to school with started contacting me asking like, how do I become TikTok famous? And I was like, wow, I'm over the other side. Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree. The communication benefits of posting videos online. There is nothing worse than filming a video of yourself, looking at the edit that you have to then produce to put it on social media, and you hear your voice 15 times before you can actually post that clip, and you think, oh God, look at that. No one's going to watch this. No one's going to listen to this. And look, they probably won't, to be honest with you. Yeah. Straight up, they won't.
The first 50, they won't. They honestly won't.
51, 52, 53, they'll start watching then.
Yeah. And I think that's where so many of us like went to TikTok first instead of Instagram because you're like, no one knows me there. And then you see people and like, love your videos. You're like, don't tell me. I often will like, people ask me like, how do you deal when things go viral? I just don't look at the numbers. Like to me, I don't think about the fact that I had like 2 last week. One got 100,000, one got 180,000 or something. And I just, no. I don't imagine
Doesn't
it.
matter.
Like that's an entire MCG version and size of people. I think we've become distorted to how many people are actually viewing it. Like you look at a poor performing video, 200 people, that's still a whole room of
If you
people.
sit in front of 200 people and do a keynote, that is a lot of people in front of you.
Yeah.
So you should be proud you get 200 views on a video.
Yeah.
100%.
Like, I've had more video views this year than the population of Victoria. That is wild, you know? And like, but to so many people that's a good viral video. We've just come a bit distorted. It's like 2,000 views on a video. What if 10% of those people want to buy it? Yeah. Like that's 200 people that you didn't have before.
That's it. Exactly right. And you need to bring it back into context of business all the time. Yeah. What's the conversion rate going to be? Even if it's 1%.
Yeah.
2,000 views and you get 1%, that's a good return.
That's 20 people.
It's a good return. It doesn't matter what size business you are. No. An extra 20 customers from one video getting 2,000 views, that's a very good return. And
you always never delete your poor performing videos. I said this on a LinkedIn recently, but I was on a podcast last year with someone in America and I posted this TikTok. It was just a response to someone saying like, oh, what should you do when you leave school? And he was like, oh, find your passion. I was like, no. You don't know who you are. You don't know what your passion is yet. If you go and just like search to try to monetize your passion, you're just going to just like make yourself upset. You know, you're going to try to be pushing for something that is just potentially going to go bust. You know what I mean? So anyway, I posted that and then I was on this podcast and she quoted it. And I'm thinking that video got like 200 views, but that was the one that stuck with her. To me, it was a failure. To her, it was, I need that woman on my podcast.
And again, goes back to what you said before. Speaking to the one individual person. And the person that needs to hear it, they need to read it, they need to watch it, they will. Mm-hmm. And that's the ones that you're going to get over the line.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So let's talk personal branding, because this is an area that you're very passionate about. And I think for me and for you, collectively, it's probably the biggest opportunity as an individual running a business for LinkedIn, definitely going forward, and across social media realms as well. So what do you see some of the common mistakes people make when trying to build a personal brand? It doesn't matter what platform it is, just personal brand in general. What are the common mistakes you see people make?
One of the biggest ones is watching the biggest players in the world and trying to be exactly like them, but they are at step 10 and you're at step 1. So they at step 10 didn't do what you were doing at step 1. So that's definitely one. Second one is not understanding who you are and how you want to show up and talk about things. You cannot be so enthusiastic talking to the camera if it's something that you think everyone wants to hear rather than what you really care about. Like if you crack that nut and this is the certain thing that I absolutely love to talk about, you will yap about it every day. Authenticity and passion comes through when it's something that you absolutely know and you absolutely want to speak about online. So that's the second one, is trying to be something you're not. The third one is honestly strategizing forever before starting. You actually just, the hardest part is starting. People say to me, okay, like, I want to work with you, let's do a strategy. Or I see some other people online being like, spend the whole first week looking at your competitors, make a list of them. No, just post. Literally, you have to do the consistency to get there. You have to do the quantity to get to the quality. Just post. Let it be messy and then make it strategic. When I started posting earlier, like this year, about LinkedIn and about the business, I was just kind of like, this is some ideas of what I'm doing. And oh, I got a client. I didn't know what it was, but people felt like they were part of a journey. Whether or not you are B2B, B2C, or any industry, people buy from people and your content should relate to that. We want to see the journey and being part of it rather than seeing the finished product. And I think so many people are worried about the fear of showing up online and then going, oh, well, I haven't got it all sorted out. My business isn't all sorted out. I'm 7 weeks in, I've worked with clients, I'm re-strategizing, and I'm going, okay, what do I want to do different? But I don't have that fear anymore of like not having it perfect online, because that story is what's going to relate to others. So yeah, that would be the 3 things I would say. Don't try to be the big wigs where they are at level 10 when you're at level 1. Talk about things that you actually care about and actually post. If you try to strategize, you will talk yourself out of it.
So then, using that as a framework, let's say that's the 3 out of the 5 steps that you would say to start building a personal brand. What would be the other 2?
Pick a platform. Definitely pick a platform that you can be consistent on as well. Like, consistency trumps everything. If you post once a week, you're not going to get anywhere. So even if you were to post once a day, that's 30 days. If you post 3 times a day, that's 90 days. You have more content that you've put out. You have more opportunities to have a look at the insights. So consistency is absolutely one of the key things as well. And I would say pick a format, like a content format that you really actually enjoy as well. Video, look, speaking to camera, practicing speaking to camera, absolutely key. I definitely agree that if you wanted to do more written form, you can go for LinkedIn with that as well. But I actually, I take that back. Practice speaking in front of the camera.
It's such a big skill.
It's such a skill, and regardless of which platform you're on, it's how you're going to have that much authenticity towards. Absolutely, if you are someone that's a very good writer, you can absolutely do that. But I guarantee you a lot of people that have played in that field are going to go, okay, actually I'm going to pick up the camera and start practicing there as well. We've all got a phone in our hands. You don't have to have the perfect setup. You can edit it in CapCut on your mobile. Practice speaking to the camera.
Yeah, and I think just that overall communication aspect, when you look at skills in a business perspective, yes, you can say, okay, this is going to benefit me in this position, this position, this position. The way I like to look at skills and building skills is, okay, I'm getting this skill of communication. I'm speaking in front of camera all the time. I'm speaking to people all the time. Good, that's going to build up that skill there. But what does that actually give me? Well, it means that once this business is finished, or for whatever reason I leave the business, well, there's going to be another business outside of there. Or I'm going to go back into working for an employer, and I need communication in that role. I also need communication in my personal life, relationships with people, a spouse or partner or family, friends, whatever it is. Everything's transferable. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that people can learn, is that whilst you can learn a skill for a very specific purpose in the now, what can that do for you down the line? Learn how to speak in front of a camera. Learn how to position yourself on camera body language wise, because all of that is transferable down the line. You don't have to just think, okay, I've got my business, I'm trying to build a personal brand, I need to speak to the camera. Yeah, you do. It's great. And learn that. But that can also give you so many opportunities down the line as well.
100%. And also people knowing you for what you're known for. So like when I started this business, I posted a bit about it on LinkedIn and I was posting a bit on TikTok. Everyone knew me and I didn't say what I was doing yet. I said I was starting my own business. And when I was getting close to launching it, I wanted a bit of market feedback. I was like coming from just a marketing background. I was like, okay, I want to show this to a few people, give a bit of like early access. So I started contacting some people that I'd worked with, knew me in the industry. Hey, I'd love to show you a bit of a like first look. Everyone was like, oh my God, yes, I want to know. Like, what are you doing? And someone said to me, like, you've nailed personal branding on LinkedIn because I feel like I've watched the journey and I'm just like, what the hell is she actually doing? Like, I really want to see it. So I kind of built that demand before it had come out as well, but it was all aligned into what my personal brand was for years. So it's the same as when we say with a business, like found a market fit. For me, I really wanted to go, okay, what am I known for? What am I good at? How have I built my personal brand? And then go into a market where it's like, oh, it feels easy because people go, I know her, I've known her for years, I know what she does. Oh, you need to speak to X. And that's definitely, I think, from like an early business kind of space, like the easiest way to go. I've spoken with other friends that are like, I want to start a business in this industry. And then 6 months later, they're like, you know what? No one knows me in that industry. I would actually be easier if I started something of where I am here and what I'm known for in the network that know me. And then potentially I get down the line to that. But yeah, always start from where people know you.
So let's say we take the inspiration from your journey over the past 12, 24 months, building that personal brand from where you were to where you are now, following that journey of I'm quitting my day job, starting my own business. Now I've got my business and this is what I'm doing. Let's say there's someone who's in their business. They've been in there for 5 years, let's say, and they've just been going about their day as they do. And now they're saying, okay, I want to start a personal brand now. They can't have the same journey. And I want to just prefix that in saying that no two journeys are the same. So there's no use saying I can't have that journey because it's not going to be the same anyway. But they can look at you and say, okay, I don't have the start. I don't have the journey to where I am now because I've been here for 5 years. So the question for you then is, how can someone go out of where they are currently now and start producing a personal brand, creating content around that without having that ideal in quotation marks starting point to go forward?
Yeah, it's the reflected backwards. I mean, Alex Hormozy, he had his podcast for years before people really kind of saw who he was. His business with the gym business was years ago. He speaks now from an authority of this is what I've done and this is what I've learned. People want to learn from people that have been in the footsteps of where they are. So you don't necessarily have to be building with people. You can still show I'm actually here. Here's how I got there. Here's where I'm going next.
Yeah, so start where you left off kind of scenario.
Yes. Speak about your journey and bring people along of where you have been and what kind of like learnings that they can have so that everyone needs to learn in their own way, but you might fail less or fail faster in your own opportunities, which then you can learn through someone else.
Sure. Social media. That's the discussion of everyone in marketing. Where do you see that moving forward? Personal brand side of things, business side of things. Where's it going to move in the next 6 months?
I think the funny thing is that, like, with these, as I said earlier, like, what you asked me about on TikTok 6 months ago is completely different to where it is now. Where you asked me about, remember when Mark Zuckerberg was like, Instagram is going to be a video platform? We were like, no. And now they're like 10 reels a month. We're like, yes, Daddy Zuck. Like, literally, we just follow, right? So I think the key thing is, in terms of it with the next 6 months, it's not going anywhere. It's absolutely ingrained in people's ways of living. 81% of Australians are active every single month on social media. We use about 6.5 different apps every single month. I would definitely say having a very clear and authentic reason for being why on different platforms and who those people are. So you will see that now that we have multiple places to speak with people, it's really about having that brand strategy and going, where do we show up on these different platforms and what's their purpose? That's why I don't say a social media strategy. I say a content marketing strategy, because social media is phenomenal, but then how do you get people off there and get them on your email list? If you look at any brand right now talking about Black Friday, Cyber Monday, they will all say to you, use social media, get people on your email list, get them signing up, and then nurture them as soon as the thing starts. So from a social perspective in the next 6 months, I would say ingraining it a lot more into a content marketing approach instead of just here's what we do on social, here's what we do in store, or here's what we do on email siloed. It has to be together in one.
That's a really good point. Really good tip. have everything collective, and it goes back to the funnel idea.
Yeah.
Each collective, top, middle, bottom.
Yeah.
Not top, middle, bottom on Instagram, top, middle, bottom on email. Make it collective, make it together, and that's going to see the biggest conversions.
100%. I mean, traditionally it was one-to-one marketing, then it was one-to-many, and now it's one-to-many on a personal scale. And artificial intelligence is going to continue to advance that. So, for example, you might have social media as that top of funnel to then get people through into your email list. Then we'll see a lot more artificial intelligence happening in with email. What do you click on? And then when someone clicks on that, what do you know about them? How can you guide them through a further journey and things like that? So, yeah, that's where I would see, instead of social media being this thing over here that this person does or this agency does, it needs to be part of your business. And regardless of whatever role that you're in, you need to understand how it comes out on there. Like, I think a key thing of what I talk about with businesses is that 93% of businesses are worried about staff retention. 2/3 of marketers, they want to upskill in order to remain employable in the future. So when we talk about social media, traditionally it used to be you'd have a brand marketing team or campaigns, partnerships, PR. Oh yeah, there's a social team. If your brand, you don't understand how your brand shows up on social media, that's not digital marketing skills are non-negotiables. Yeah. It's not I'm not sure how that is. You might not know the tactics. This person might be like, these hashtags, this copy, video needs to be X long, but you need to understand to a basic level of how that shows up, because that's where majority of us are going for it. I mean, look at how much we're going to search now on social media compared to on Google.
Big time. Big time.
It's not negotiable anymore. And I feel like I've been beating that drum for a long time, being like, no, it's important. And now it's like we're seeing the consumer behavior aligned to that.
Yeah, five search engines these days: Google, YouTube, which has been around for ages, Instagram, TikTok, and ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at Google Ads. Like, I mean, realistically, when I started my business, one of the main things people asked me was like, how do you become searchable on Google? I'm like, that's not where people are going to find me. I'm like, not realistically. Yeah. People are going to find me because I find them in the algorithm. That's how they're going to find me. Yeah. Unless if it was like I was a chiropractor or a local business, restaurants near me, chiropractor near me, doctor near me, you should definitely have it on a local scale. But I think a lot more people are starting to go, okay, hang on, what is the bigger brand play here? And putting social media into the ecosystem rather than just this thing over here that this one social media team does.
100%. Kim, we've spoken about the biggest lessons that you've learned in your business so far, what you've learned at Hootsuite and over that last couple of years of your career in marketing. As we finish up this morning, got 2 questions for you. The first is, what is the biggest lesson you learnt over your entire career as a marketer, 10 plus years that you've been involved in the industry? And then finally, what one tip would you give someone who's completely fresh to marketing for them to improve by 1% today?
I would say overall of your career, no one's coming to give it to you. No one's coming to find you and go, this is what you should do. If you want to have a particular career, regardless if it's in a particular business or it's starting your own, no one is coming to find you. No one is coming to give that to you. If you want that next promotion, you have to be able to go, this is where I'm going and this is what I want to achieve, and put your career in your own hands and its trajectory. I learnt that very early on. And when I came into this first kind of content role at Reese, and I went, well, hang on, no one else here knows what I'm doing and knows where the industry's going. I need to show the business, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want, and continue that growth trajectory, which is exactly what I've done, and I've always had that. And that's why I had about 8 promotions in about 10 years of my journey. Same then when I went into my business, I had to go, here's what I want. So I say that to people, no one's coming to find you. You have to have your own personal brand. No one's coming to give you the job that you want. It also then means that when you are redundant like me, you're not going, oh my God, I put my entire life into the hands of someone else. You go, all right, well, where am I going to take myself next? So it sounds like a lot of work, but choose your heart. Do you want to be in a role where you just coast and you don't know what that next trajectory is, and you listen to the business going, are you going to give me a promotion or not? Or if you're redundant, okay, what do I do next? Or do you want to be your career in your hands? You know where it's going, your trajectory, go for it. And then the second one, in terms of getting a little bit better every day, never just coast. Don't get to a point where you go, I'm a marketer and I know everything. I never call myself an expert. I will never say that I'm a social media expert, because I have no one knows where it's going.
No, it changes every day.
It will change every single day. I think one of the most dangerous things that people do is get to a point and go, I know everything on this topic. You will make yourself redundant. Because someone else will come through. Everyone's worried, AI is going to take our job. No, the person that can use AI to do your job quicker is the person that will take your job. We're getting to a point where what we're starting to see is less about the tenure and the runs, less about the tenure, but more about the runs on the board. If someone might have 15 years experience and they've worked in X companies and they've got X amount of years, but someone might have 8 years of experience and they can go, here's what I did, here's what I shown, here's the results, here's my understanding of where the industry is going forward. Who do you think is going to get the job? It's a no-brainer. So yeah, that's the other thing is like always be learning and always just don't let yourself get to a point where you go, I know everything. I really like believe in the whole like check your ego at the door. Always be a lifelong learner when it comes to marketing because you might know the fundamentals, you might know for where you are now, but there is always something new to learn. Like these social media platforms, TikTok is what, 5 years old? 5 years. Like 30 years ago, we were only just getting the first internet in our house. Do we think that we're going to be where we are now in 30 years' time? Absolutely not.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
So yeah, that's definitely the thing. Always be open to learning.
Kim, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been phenomenal. You've got so much knowledge and you've got so much enthusiasm, and that is the best thing. The enthusiasm, contagious, as we all know. So thank you. It's been great to have your time this morning, and I'm looking forward to seeing the journey that proceeds for Tangerine Tango, because no doubt it'll be very exciting over the next 12 months to see the growth.
Appreciate it. Thank you.